Hello, and welcome to Intention Ascension. I feel like the camera is so close. Yeah, move back a little bit. Meow, meow. Okay. So today I wanted to get started by talking about spiritual awakening and the things that we go through during this point in time. So it's different for everybody. Some of us will have to go through an event in life that triggers us into our spiritual awakening. And that triggering event is similar to the dark night of the soul. And when we go through that triggering event, it will change us forever. It essentially comes in and it shatters our ego to an extent, not completely, but enough for the soul light to come shining in. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be painful, but it will rock your world. It will change the way that you perceive things. It will change the way that you look at different situations in your life, conversations that are happening around you. You may look at your friends and kind of wonder, what are you going to be doing in 5 years? Where are you going? Or it will make you look at your job and say, I don't know if this is really what I want. I'm not sure that I'm happy here. And so it'll put these cracks and you'll start to think a little bit differently. And then there are some people who are born with their spiritual awakening. They just came in woke. And so I'm actually strangely like a blend between the two. And I remember coming or going to our state fair. And my poor best friend, I would always drag her to go and see the psychic. And I was never raised in a church. I didn't really have a grounded religion that I was in. My family never went. If I ever went, I always went with my neighbors. And so that I ended up being exposed to a lot of different churches and religions from a very young age, but I don't really remember any of it. I don't remember what the teachings were or anything like that. It was like I was just there for the social experience. But I do remember always knowing that there was something more, that I just knew it. I felt it. I was like, there are people who are in touch or they're in tune, and there's just something out there that they're clicking into, and I don't know what it is, but the psychic must know. And of course, I ended up spending a lot of money for many years on someone who was going to tell me like how long I was going to live for, how many kids I was going to have. And she really used and abused my state fair stipend. um, but it didn't stop me from believing and knowing that there is something more. So I was born into a family that was very much so check the boxes, go to college, get married, have children, buy a house. Your degree is going to take you exactly where you're going to go. And you're going to know that by the time you're ready to go to college, which I was on my way to college. I think like a month after, not even, probably like 2 weeks after I turned 17 or 18. So it was very young, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I felt like I was supposed to know what I was going to do. And I then got introduced to someone who became my psychic development teacher. And I went and I sat down to have a reading with her. And she just started, describing family members who had passed away, things that I had done. The very first thing she asked me was why I stopped writing. And there were just things that she knew that there was no way that she could know unless she was in tune and in touch with something far greater than us here on this earth. And we all have the ability to be in tune with things that are far greater than the lies that we were told on a daily basis. So I was born into a very strict matrix, but always knew that there was something more. And eventually I found it. I started taking my classes. And so when we talk about the spiritual awakening, it can be happening for me, it happened for decades. It's still happening to this day. For some people, they'll go through a couple of weeks and they're like, boom, I'm on it, and then there's some people who are literally born with it. and especially in this new wave now. So if anybody here has not listened to Dolores Cannon, one of the things that she talks about, and I believe she has a book, is all of the new souls that are coming, or not, sorry, not new souls, old souls that are coming in to help shift the planet to the fifth dimension. And so we're raising our frequency on this planet. Now, for some of us who have really elevated souls, but still past life karma that we haven't figured out or haven't resolved, it's almost as though we saved that. So that way we could come into this time frame right now, because the universe always has a plan. God knows where we're going. He saw it from a long time ago, aware of what's happening, aware of the technology that came in, just like boom, shifted so many things. To think that, just 200 years ago, we are still on horse carriages waiting for letters written by feather pens, like that whole 9 yards, that if you took a kid addicted to technology today would like have literally a break in their psyche if you sent them out there into that time frame when they're so used to these instant messages and instant responses and read receipts and people having their phone in their hands all the time. Good Lord, could you imagine them waiting for a horse carriage to deliver a letter in response and hoping that the person got that letter? Anyways, so so what I was saying is that we have a massive group of souls that have come in and they're breaking generational ties. So we're looking at extremely, extremely abusive and toxic family members, addiction. We're looking at like addiction, abuse, physical, sexual, mental, emotional abuse coming in from these very, very dark family members that have raised them, and they're very sensitive to energies and they understand that there is something more that's out there. Well, they were there to break that generation. They were there to break the family line, to shift everything into a different way of life, a different way of thinking, because the toxicity that has traveled down these family lines is creating so many issues. So we have all these different ways that we can come into our spiritual awakening. But essentially what is going to happen if you weren't just automatically born with it, or if you had a really traumatic childhood and you're coming into your spirituality, you are here to break that generation. And then for those of you who are coming into your spiritual awakening, you're getting cracks in your ego and you're starting to be shown that there is something that's different. There is more that's out there. There's more purpose to life than what you had thought. And that's when you start to question your surroundings, right? And then as we go into the kind of like almost the second phase, I suppose, like once you start to realize like, okay, there's more to this than what I had thought, and now I'm interested. So you begin that research. What's going on? What's happening? What do you think about this? Or you hop on Chat GPT and you start asking all these questions. And if you have spiritual questions to ask Chat GPT, you should place empirical data aside and then your question, and you'll get even more in-depth answers along the lines of what it is that you are truly seeking, and less textbook style data coming back at you. So you go from, kind of getting those cracks in your ego, you start asking questions, then you go into the research aspect of it, right? And it's going to be like, boom, light bulb, boom, light bulb, boom, light bulb. I understand what's going on. Oh my God, I thought that. I knew that. I felt that. You know what? That resonates so much with me, blah, blah, blah. And things start to make sense. So you go into this elevated level of, well, in recovery, we call it the pink cloud. So the pink cloud, this like very happy, jovial, blissful state of being. And then once we get there and we recognize, okay, we've got this strong understanding that there's more going on, there's energies I can work with. Maybe you're diving into psychology, you're starting to like understand the people that are around you. or why you're around them, you start unwiring childhood trauma. Well, now you're ready for your dark night of the soul. So that light has come through your ego, and you started your research and you're asking these questions, you're getting the answers, and you're up here in excitement, and bam, boom, here comes that dark night. And in that dark night, and you can have multiple dark nights, right? Because there are a lot of things that can be stored in our ego that we have to break free from, whether that's past life karma or it's from the upbringing, particularly from this lifetime, what our blocks are that we're doing. And so some of those blocks are things like, I wrote it down: dishonesty, narcissism, manipulativeness, jealousy, being selfish, arrogance, greed, stubbornness. And those are just some examples. And when we go through these dark nights, they can be shown to us through our relationships, through our careers, through our friends, because it's typically something that's happening exterior and it affects us so deeply, but we already have started our spiritual awakening. So even though we're going into this dark night of the soul and we're questioning what's going on, hopefully we don't get stuck in that dark night for too long, because we already have this spiritual understanding that we can find the answers, we can seek within, we can understand why people around us are behaving in certain ways, or why we're going through these changes at work, why we have maybe been discluded from events that are happening. And it seems like everything is just falling apart, or maybe just one particular thing is just completely falling apart. And if you turn that inward on yourself, that's okay, because you're evaluating, okay, what have I done? What has happened? Blah, 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 blah. But then you also have to detach from it. You do not want to get stuck in this dark night of the soul for too long. It's like that saying, show or fool me once, blame on you. Fool me twice, blame on me. And you may, let's say a relationship, for example, that you're supposed to be detaching from. This is your teacher, and you have actually categorized them as your soulmate, your twin flame, your forever person. And you're starting to see past all of those things, and you can detach and leave because you know that this person or this job isn't good for you. And then you start to make excuses, and then you go back, and then you detach and you leave, and then you go back. But each time you're going either deeper into negativity because you're fighting against something, like trying to put a square into a peg hole type of a situation. Or it's just that they're proving more and more and more to you why they don't fit in your life. And you keep trying to make it happen. And so we can find ourselves in this revolving door of that dark night. So that is why the detachment aspect is so important, to be able to take that spirituality and have faith in what is happening around you, and that it's not happening to you, but that it's happening for you. And to stop questioning why me? Why is this happening to me? I'm such a good person. I did this, I did that. That doesn't matter. Why is this happening for me? Why do I no longer need this person? Why do I no longer need this career? And I think that's also a big one too, because if we stay stuck somewhere for too long, that person or that job will disappear, and you'll get maybe fired one day. You'll walk into work and you'll be like, well, I don't even know what just happened. Don't get stuck in that energy. Ask, why is this happening for me? Is it time for me to take a break and reevaluate what I'm doing with my life? Do I need to look at having a different job? How is this job hurting me? How is this person hurting me? Because I guarantee you there are things that are going on behind the scenes that you don't know about. And God will handpick people out of your life. Just and we can't get stuck in wondering why. That person was not meant to be in your life. That job you were not meant to show up to anymore. Do you have a bunch of vacation time that you can't take? Are you super nervous when it comes to messaging or calling your boss or messaging your boss, or you see their name pop up on the phone? Are you in a constant state of anxiety? Are you like clogged up all weekend and then go to work on Monday and it's just like, because your gut is just like, and it's going crazy and there's all these things happening and you're walking on eggshells, but you're making all these justifications for doing it, for staying around, for staying with this person, even though you can predict through their text messages exactly how they're feeling. And then you go back to them and then they make an excuse for their behavior, and you would rather be comfortable than make the change that's right for you. Then that is where we get stuck. So that detachment is absolutely necessary to be able to evaluate, why is this happening for me? How is this causing problems in my life? Was this person dragging me down, holding me back? Were they not supportive of me? And so therefore I paused on projects for long periods of time because they didn't feel like it was a good idea. Maybe you wanted to invest in something, a class, a course, whatever. And they're like, no, we don't have the money for that right now. And you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess we don't have the money for that right now. Instead of saying, is this really what you want to do? If this is really what you want to do, then I want to support you in this. We don't have the money for it, but we're going to make it work. When we are faced against things that are stopping us from carrying out our purpose, and so many of us walking this planet right now have such a huge purpose, and our voices are so important when it comes to moving this energy on the planet from what it was into what it's going to be. And the shift, we can't stop it. There are so many beautiful spiritual souls that are coming in, and we're shaking things up and we're changing the way that people are thinking. We're changing the way that they look at the world that is around them. So let's say you have to go through a couple dark nights of the soul. Maybe you're losing friends, you're losing your relationship, you've lost your career, whatever the case may be, or maybe all of them at once. You know, if that happens, yeah, there's something you asked for it, like whether it was when you were in communion with your higher self, or if it was part of the plan before you got here, whatever the case may be. If that is all happening, then we are now looking at, okay, I'm getting that little sign. All right, I'm gonna have to stop this and then start again. So it'll be part, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I am actually just going to continue on because I'm getting the message for the internet connection, and I'm just going to continue on and see if it captures the whole thing. And if not, then I'll just pick up where it broke off. So, okay. So you go through this dark night of the soul, and let's say you asked for all this to happen because you did somewhere along the line. So that way you would have this moment in time where you are ready to evolve. You are ready to jump to the next level. And that is where you go into a point in time where you're essentially in isolation. And this isolation is life changing. Like, you may feel alone. You may feel like you've lost everything, but this is your time for creativity. If you need to rest, if you need to eat, if you want to work out, if you want to just deep dive into research, you don't want to talk to people, this is your time. For me personally, I went into this and it was about a year long. I was attending a temple and I was going to the dog park, and that is all I was doing. And it became a running joke at my work on Fridays when I would leave. Oh yeah, and I went to work. And so it was a running joke on Fridays when I would go to leave, everyone would be like, oh, Chaz, have a good time at the dog park. And then when I would come in on Monday, I'd be like, dude, you guys, I had the most incredible time at the dog park. I met this lady, blah, 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 blah. We're friends now. We're going to take our dogs to the dog wash. It's great. We're going to meet here every Wednesday. So I can't stay later than, this time because I have a dog park date. But what was happening during that time was so critically important. And I didn't understand it when it was happening. I was just kind of like going with the flow. It's like, I don't have any friends right now, which is interesting. And I don't have anything to really do. But I took that time and I read books and I watched documentaries and I meditated and I went to the temple and I dove into their teachings, and I even almost just like completely surrendered my life to go into the ashram. And I was completely ready for it. My path got, scooted because that wasn't what was meant for me in this lifetime. So all of that time, I bonded with the earth, I bonded with myself, I bonded with my priorities, and I learned how to be okay being completely alone. And that was extremely important for me. So now when you come out of this phase, you are ready. You've gone through your dark night, you've gone through your void, and you have an idea of what is next for you. And so that is where you start to practice how you have evolved in this time. You start to put your knowledge into work. You take that dark night of the soul and you have new red flags in your life because you have set new boundaries. I am not going to allow this. I am not going to allow that. I refuse to have someone in my life who takes my time away from what is important to me. I refuse to sit in groups of people when all they want to do is gossip and complain about these third dimensional things that don't really matter. They're problems of the mind. That's not a problem. If you want to complain and you want to gripe and you want to moan, okay, go ahead. There is a group out there for you, but that's not for me. I want people who are going to elevate me, who are going to push me, who are going to teach me, who are going to support me. So I will no longer accept this in my life. I will not date this type of person because this type of person has shown me that the root of what I was attracted to was just a byproduct of their insecurities. And ultimately, I end up getting cheated on or lied to. And so I will recognize you as a person. I will respect you as a person, but I now will no longer allow you into my life because I see beyond what I am being presented with. And I don't have time for that. So that is I guess, a quick little rundown of what a spiritual awakening is. I love you guys.